I'm playing my Sims right now, so excuse me if I get distracted, but I wanted to make this video real quick. So let's talk about Adichie's, Ngozi Adichie's comments towards transgender women. Let's just get that out of the way. I made a video before, but I felt that may have been a little bit harsh. Some words were said about other women that maybe I should really think before I say some things, because I want to talk about this without cussing. I want to talk about this without having to resort to name calling, and just help people understand why certain things are wrong, certain things are just immoral, certain things are just terrible to even perpetuate. Chimamanda Adichie stated 2 or so weeks ago that trans women are trans women. She didn't say they are women. She said they are trans women and they should be put in a separate category from cis women like myself, because all trans women are born with male privilege. Okay, here's how you are wrong, Chimamanda. Not all trans women have male privilege. Even before they transition, they aren't read as men, is what I am trying to say. And Seren Sensei, I believe I'm pronouncing her name right. She has a channel and I follow her on Twitter because she made a video which inspired me to make this video. And I also saw Ngozi's video. And, you know, like, he made some points. Like, I see some of his videos, but I feel like, you know, I'm not going to be one of those people that wants to talk about her, you know, Nigerian heritage in a disparaging manner. I don't want to talk about how people are dying in Nigeria, just making disparaging comments, you know, because I feel like there's a way to call someone out without stigmatizing their heritage as well. Like, I made sure to look up Chimamanda's name so I could be pronouncing it right, because there are people who are deliberately mispronouncing her name to be Afrophobic, to talk bad about Native Africans. So I don't want to do that. But Seren made a point to say that there are trans women who have always been read as women. And we've all been in situations where we saw a girl or a boy or somebody else, someone of another gender, and we thought to ourselves as little kids, are they a boy or are they a girl? And it would turn out that they were either a boy or a girl, and we got the gender wrong. But because of how we are taught to look at certain things, certain presentations, a lot of us mistake other people for being a gender that they are not. So I never thought of it that way, but Seren had a point. You can't sit here and lie and say all trans women are born with male privilege, when what you mean to say is all trans women are assigned male at birth because of their genitals. That's what you meant to say, but no, Chimamanda was also trying to be transphobic. Like, what she said was transphobic. She should have just said straight up that she does not consider trans women to be women, that she considers them to be men because they were born as men. And people don't like to say that anymore. Like, people don't like to say terms like born as men because it implies that you at one time were a man and you just decided to be a woman. But Chimamanda had it in her mind that because trans women are born with male privilege, quote unquote, they don't understand what it's like to be a cis woman. They don't understand what it's like to deal with misogyny from birth. Okay. I think as cis women, we need to shut the fuck up. I think instead of trying to speak over trans women, we should listen to trans women. I'm someone that reads from trans women. I interact with trans women. I follow them and they follow me. You know, I'm someone that listens. I straight up call cis women bitches when they act out. I do that. Good thing my Sims are on full autonomy right now. I'm about to play. But I got my Sims. They are the Ross family. I have, what's her name? Ellie Ross. Then her brother, Elias Ross. Her father, Jason Ross. And her mommy, Hannah Ross. And Ellie is going out with my legacy son, Cairo. And Cairo is head over heels for this girl. I try to get Cairo to go out with Billie Jang. But for some reason, they didn't hit it off. I don't know why. I tried to get Billy to be with somebody else, but then she didn't hit it off with them, because I had a friend hook Billy with both Cairo and another guy, and she's like, things didn't go well. I don't think we should be dating again. It's like, baby, maybe it's you. Maybe you're just not a nice person, or I don't know. Like, I don't understand. Like, I gave Ellie the romantic trait, and she's alluring, so it could be easier for her to like just hit it off with Cairo. Yeah. Ooh, she's a teenager, but yeah, all my Sims are thick and curvy, and she's taking a nap. I'm gonna get distracted. But let's get back to Chimamanda's comments. What was I saying? She basically lied about trans women all having male privilege, because she just wanted to say that trans women are men that transitioned to women or decided that they are women. It's like a lot of TERFs, because TERFs means trans exclusionary radical feminism. I believe that's so. I believe it's excluding trans women from their feminism, and they are radical feminists. But she lied about trans women having male privilege because she didn't want to say that they are women. She wanted to say that these are men who are masquerading as women, who are infiltrating a space, but she has no choice but to call them women because that's their identity. That's basically what she was trying to say. And she's been called out by a lot of trans black women on Twitter, and they gave her chances. They didn't call her names. They said, you know, what she said was transphobic, but, you know, maybe we can help her out, or maybe we can get our cis sisters to help her out and try to explain to her why what she said was problematic. But what does Chimamanda do? She says, I have nothing to apologize, and I feel cisgender is academic feminism, and we need to just not say cis or trans. We need to just abolish that. Basically talking like an anti-social justice warrior, where every time we bring up terms that people don't want to acknowledge exist, or an ideology that people don't want to acknowledge is a thing, they say, well, it's jargon, it's social justice terminology, it's academic terminology, it's just jargon. And it's really just people being bigots, not wanting to acknowledge that something is a thing. So many trans women just decided, you're canceled. I don't want anything to do with you. And I understand. And I don't think any womanism or any feminism has room for women like Chimamanda, because so many trans women today are being killed because of ignorance from Chimamanda, or women like Chimamanda. People think cis women do not have the power to oppress trans women the way that cis men oppress trans women, but it'll usually be cis women, cis black women that always want to out trans black women. It'll usually be them that say things like, oh my God, Amaya Scott, she's so beautiful, but fellas, niggas, she's a nigga too. Like, they always want to expose the fact that this pretty girl, Amaya Scott, has a penis. Or she may not have a penis, because not all trans girls have penises. Not all trans women have penises. You know, some have vaginas. But I think it's important to realize that a lot of trans women and girls do have penises, and we shouldn't erase them. We shouldn't try to make trans girls conform to our cis ideals of femininity. There are some trans women that never want to transition. They are still women. But it'll usually be cis feminists, cis black feminists that want to sit here and talk about trans women, trans black women at that, and then turn around and call them their sisters. I can see why more trans women, trans black women don't really want anything to do with us, because we let them down so many times. Now, I'm someone that does my research. I like to look at different groups of people and hear where they are coming from before I make my own opinion about something. That's just how I am. I do my research. I have empathy. I understand where people are coming from. I'm not someone that wants to sit on the sidelines and say, well, that sucks, but do nothing about it. I take action. I talk about the issue. I'm not one of those cis women that wants to sit here and make it about myself. But I made this video because I want to call out cis women like Chimamanda, who make it a point to say that trans women aren't like us because they are born men. And I want to put an end to that because I feel like that's not real feminism, or it is real feminism, but that's just not my ideal of feminism or womanism. I'm someone that identifies as a womanist. I've never been a feminist. I identified as a feminist at one time, but then I saw how whitewashed it was and how much of a white woman's movement it is. So I see myself as a womanist. All the way, baby, 100%. But it's people like Chimamanda that make it hard for trans women to be themselves, because so many trans women do have body dysmorphia where they feel they have to blend into society's ideal of being a woman or being feminine. Because as I said, not all trans women want to transition. Not all trans women want to be femme. Not all trans women identify as femme. There are all types of trans women. They have facial hair. They have muscles just like cis women do. They don't have breasts. They are really skinny. Like they don't fit your ideal of femininity, but they are still women. And they do have penises. And I feel we need to normalize a penis as something just as feminine as we normalize vaginas. Because I am so tired of cis women framing women's rights issues as just having a vagina, just having babies, and just having periods. Because there are men who have periods. There are cis women who don't have periods. You can't exclude trans people because they are a minority to you. Just because maybe 1 to 3% of the community is transgender does not mean you can exclude them. You have to talk about trans women's issues before you talk about our issues as cis women. I feel we need to focus more on sex ed towards trans women, because a lot of people don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to sex. Because everyone wants to say, well, condoms are always given to men and it's always for men. Okay, well, there are trans women who need condoms because they have penises. Okay, we need to talk about sex education from an LGBT standpoint and a trans women standpoint, because so many people don't know what they are doing, because a lot of us only want to talk about women's sexuality when it comes to having periods, or when it comes to getting pregnant, or when it comes to having a vagina. There was one feminist on Twitter that I saw. She had like several thousand notes, or not notes, it's not Tumblr. She had several thousand retweets and likes. And she said, anything you can do, I can do bleeding. This was on Women's Day, International Women's Day at the beginning of March. I saw that and I wasn't going to retweet that shit because I don't like to share anything that makes it a point to suggest that the hardest thing about being a woman is to have a period. Sweetie, I'm anemic. I have periods. I have the worst periods of all time. One time when I was on my period last month, I nearly fainted in a cafeteria. I had to sit down. I went to the bathroom and had the runs. I was sweating. I threw up. That's how bad my periods get. And I feel a lot of people don't take it seriously because they do look at it as a women's issue. But I will never in my life act as if that's the only issue to being a woman. You know how petty that sounds to sit there and say, well, our issues is having babies and having periods and having a vagina. That sounds so petty when there are women being killed in the streets for having a penis. That sounds so petty. And I don't like to talk about myself. I don't just like to talk about me. I like to talk about everyone else because I care about other people. I do. I'm not someone that likes to gossip, but I love to talk about other people and what they are going through because I like to help people. I like to do my research before I just start, spouting off at the mouth. But so many women like Chimamanda, that feminist that said all women have periods, or when I try to correct her, she said, well, it's from my perspective. It's from my experience. I wasn't saying I was the only one that had a period. I'm a woman that has periods, so I'm speaking from my perspective. Bitch, you were saying that because you are a woman, you're better than a man because you have periods. What you fail to understand is that not all women have periods. It doesn't make you superwoman because you have periods. I'm sorry, but let's abolish this notion that being a woman that has children, that has periods, that has a vagina means she's superwoman. Stop calling yourself womb man. Stop doing that, because you are erasing women who don't have children and feel like they are nothing without children. And that's a part of misogyny and patriarchal ideals as well. Yes, I understand having a child is hard, and I understand that it's not taken seriously because it's something that is seen as a cis women's issue. But it's ideologies like that that doesn't help trans women. It makes being a trans woman a lot harder for them because it's not just systematic issues, it's social issues. It's trying to date. Especially when a lot of trans women are straight, and a lot of them pursue cis men, and that's very dangerous. And then for you to not help the situation by just telling, cis men that, you're a fag if you date a trans woman, or, making fun of Tyga. Like, Tyga may very well be bisexual. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if the worst thing about Tyga is the fact that, he hooked up with a trans woman, or sometimes he dates dudes, you know what? You trash for that. Like, if that's the worst thing to say about Tyga and he is a pedophile, you're trash. And I'm talking about you, Black China. But let's get back to this issue of how you make it hard for trans women to be themselves, to pursue other men or pursue women, because you feel as if they are either men trying to steal other men from poor cis women, or if they do like women, they are really men trying to sneak sex with women with vaginas, like, because they just want to have a reason to sleep with trans or lesbian women that don't like women or that don't like men. That's a lot of effort to go through, just so you can get some pussy. That seems like a lot of effort to go through just to get some pussy. It really does. So you mean to tell me there are people out here that are saying they're women just so they can exclusively date lesbian women? You know how absurd that sounds? And the thing of the matter is, you don't ever call out men who date men, or you don't get as mad about men with penises who date men than women with penises who date men. It seems like you are jealous. It seems like maybe you have penis envy over women with penises. I don't know. I don't understand. Of course, I know you are violently misogynistic, but I feel like your jealousy, your internalized misogyny towards trans women, is ridiculous. Making fun of Amaya Scott, making fun of, what's her name? It's Bambi's Playhouse, saying all of these horrific things because, you're jealous of someone because they are attractive and you're ugly as hell and you're cis. Like, come on now. And I'm not going to sit there and say, like, oh, you're supposed to be attractive because you are cis, because that's not true. Because my ideal of beauty is a lot different than somebody else's ideal of beauty, which is very narrow. But, you have all these ugly cis girls trying to come for, these trans girls who may be feminine or masculine, and they want to sit here and make themselves feel better about themselves. I don't support what Chimamanda said. I don't. I will never support what she said. I think she's an ignorant bitch for what she said. She's an ignorant bitch. And she doesn't deserve followers. She doesn't deserve fans. Because if she's not going to bother to learn about trans women's issues, especially trans women in Africa, trans Black women throwing her own people under the bus, I'm not with it. I will never be with it. And speaking of which, I want to talk about this in another video, the whole Dave Chappelle thing, but this kind of coincides with this video. Like, just this whole thing of how you want to trivialize trans issues, and when people call you out, you sit there and say that they are making a big deal out of it. If you're going to be woke as a Black person, you have to be prepared for defending trans Black women. But one more thing, as was said earlier, trans women aren't born with male privilege, because there are trans women who will always be seen as women no matter what. I know a cis woman who is read as a man because she has a hormonal disorder. A lot of people mistake her for being a man because of her voice and her facial hair and her features. So you can't sit here and say trans women have male privilege without acknowledging that there are cis women who can pass for cis men. So do they have male privilege as well? Come on now.